let's dive into what it means to manage your money. Now, I got to tell you from experience that I have made some massive mistakes with money. Growing up, my mom never really sat me down and intentionally taught me how to live within your means or how to not take out debt, any of those things. It was just we just made it up as we went, like a lot of people do. The only problem is, Mom didn't tell me no very often. She didn't. We weren't rich by any means, and I wasn't spoiled by any means. But if I wanted something, I just never really heard the word no very often. That led to some problems when I got older. Because when I was out of college and on my own, I didn't understand the word no. I didn't understand that you had to make choices with your money, that you had to live within your means, that you had to set a budget or not take out debt for things that you couldn't afford. So I just bought stuff. I continued to live however I wanted to live and live in a house with some girls that was more expensive than I could afford on my entry-level salary in a nonprofit job. I had credit cards. I had personal lines of credit. I had medical bills that were stacking up because the reality is I was living way outside of my means. Well, this went on for several years of me barely getting by, several years of getting paid on Friday and having to pay all of that money backwards to past debts and payments, several years of still calling my mom, asking her to put money in my bank account because I couldn't make it to the next payday. There was one day that I'll never forget. It was one day when I was around 24 years old, and I had to call my mom yet again to ask her to put money in my bank account because I couldn't make it to the next payday, and I just was so fed up. I didn't even know who Dave Ramsey was at this time. I just knew I couldn't live like this. I knew that I wanted nothing more in my life than the dignity of paying for my own lifestyle, my own expenses, my own bills. I wanted that sense of independence that every person in their 20s wants. And I wasn't independent at all. I was completely dependent on my mom. I wasn't a grown-up, whatever that means. I was a child living on her mom's paychecks. And something in me changed that day. I decided that I was going to do something different. I decided I was going to work really, really hard to get out of debt. I didn't have a plan. I hadn't read the Total Money Makeover. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just knew something needed to change. And that day, I wrote down every single debt that I have. I still remember sitting on my bed, laying all the bills out, and the fear I felt at facing it. And it was around $24,000 between the medical bills, the personal lines of credit, all of that, the car loan. It was around $24,000. Now, that doesn't sound like that much money if you're a grown-up and you have lots of debt. But to me, at 24, when I was making not even $30,000 a year before taxes, that seemed insurmountable. How would I ever pay off this debt? Well, I tackled it like you tackle anything, one tiny step at a time. I think it was right around my very last debt, which is my car loan that I was paying off when I was introduced to Dave Ramsey. And that gave me that last final push, that last momentum to pay off that biggest debt. And then exactly 1 week before I got engaged to my husband, Matt, I became debt-free. I made that final payment. And I cannot ever forget how that felt to feel that free. To know that when I got paid on Friday, I was going to actually get to keep my money. To go into engagement with my future husband at the time, completely debt-free, without that baggage coming with me, without that fear hanging over my head. But y'all, I lived in that fear and that shame and that frustration for years. I remember what it's like to be sitting at the restaurant with friends and hand them my credit card and be so nervous, heart racing, palm sweating that server was going to come back and tell me that my card was declined because I'd maxed it out in front of all my friends. I remember going to the grocery store and being so scared that the card would not be approved. I remember getting paid and not even having enough money for the next few weeks because all that money was already allocated for all those past bills. That was more than I could even afford to stay afloat. I remember that fear. I remember that shame. I remember how discouraging and defeating that felt. And what's so sad that I see still today is so many people live like that. So many people still live just getting by. They don't even consider that there's another way. They don't even consider that you could be debt-free. They don't even consider that you could live a life without payments. They don't even consider that you could, wait for it, pay for a car in cash. And not because you're rich and you just have so much money or someone just gives you a car, but because you work and you plan and you save because you own it, because you can. They don't even consider that you could go through life without a FICO score, that you could go through life without a credit card. Yeah. Do you know? No, fasten your seatbelt. It's going to get crazy. I don't have a credit card. Really? If you open my wallet, which is right over there off screen, there's not a credit card in it. There's a debit card, which has cash in the bank, the amount of cash that I have, but there's not a credit card. And I travel all over the country, speaking and teaching and traveling with my family and traveling with friends. I travel. You can do what you need to do with the debit card. But we have been sold this lie that the only way to build wealth, to be successful, to get ahead is with credit cards, with points, with FICO scores. And we have all bought this lie and we're all paying for it every single payday. When those checks are being written, those automatic drafts are being taken out to all the past payments and bills. We don't even consider that there's a different way to live. But I want to tell you that there is. I want to tell you that you don't have to struggle with your money forever. You don't have to barely get by. You don't have to feel fear when you hand someone your card. You don't have to fear payday, that paycheck is not going to cover the bills you already have. You could actually live in a world where when you get paid on Friday, you get to keep that money. You get to keep it. It just changes everything about your life. You have to decide that you're going to do something different. You have to have that moment that I had that day when I was 24 and say, never again. I'm not going to live like this anymore. I'm not going to depend on credit cards. I'm not going to be sinking in debt up to my eyeballs. Never again. I'm going to do something different. You got to get mad and you got to get fired up, because I love how Dave Ramsey says you can wander into debt, but you cannot wander out. You have to get fired up and mad and care more about your future and your family and your dreams than you do about having that one shirt or jacket or couch or TV or whatever today. You have to think long-term, not short-term. You have to make a decision to change your life. But when you do, you will change your life. You will not only change your life, you will change your entire family tree. My children will not make the mistakes that I've made. They will learn growing up of how to live on a budget. They make commission with chores even at home right now. They understand when we go to the store, if I have this much money in my little kid envelope, this is how much money I have to spend. They're going to have a completely different experience than I had, because they're going to learn. I have changed my entire family tree. And I think one of the things that makes this so hard for us, aside from the fact that we get into these habits and behaviors, but we have some weird feelings around money, don't we? Like, especially as Christians, if you're a believer listening to this or watching this, like, we've got some weird squirmy feelings around money. We feel like money is evil. It makes you a bad person. I just want to remind you, I want to set the record straight. Money is not evil. Money is amoral. It means that it's not good and it's not bad. It's like a brick, for example. You look at the brick, you're not, oh, that's such a nice brick. Oh, it's a friendly brick. Or, oh, that's a mean brick. I hate that brick. It's just a brick. But when you put it in the hands of a person, it can be used for good or used for bad. You can build a building, a home, an orphanage with that brick, and that is used for good. You could take that brick and throw it through someone's car windshield. That's bad. The brick didn't decide, by the way. It's just a brick. The person that had the brick decided how it was used, and money is the same way. People think all the time that rich people are evil and wealthy people are evil, but you know what? I know a lot of people that are wealthy and crazy generous. I see the difference that they're making in our world with that wealth. And I know some people that don't have a lot of money and they're jerks. The amount of money does not determine the character of the person. The character of the person determines how any amount of money is used. So we have to get over this idea that there's only one way to live. We have to live in debt. We have to have credit cards. We have to have a FICO score. And if we try to earn money, oh my gosh, we're evil. We're going to be outcast because we're terrible people. Money's amoral. It's also, by the way, as a side note, the common denominator of everything you want to do in your lifetime. It is a tool for your life. Think of anything you want to do. Think of any goal you want to set. You want to get married? Weddings are expensive. You want to have kids? Kids are real expensive. You want to travel? That's expensive. Want to run marathons? That costs money. Entry fees, shoes, all of that. You want to build wells in Africa? Guess what that costs? Money. It costs money. Everything you want to do requires money. It's the common denominator of everything you want to do. So it is a tool. If we don't learn how to manage it, the lack of it will always manage us. I love how Zig Ziglar says, money isn't the most important thing in life, but it's pretty close to oxygen on the gotta have it scale. So we gotta have it. We've gotta have it. So let's figure out how to manage our money in a way that brings glory to God and makes the life we want possible. And I know that sinking in debt and barely getting by is not the life you want. I know that living paycheck to paycheck is not the life that you want. I know you want something better for yourself and your family. Decide that today is that day for you. Decide that today is that day. Never again. You're never looking back. You're not gonna live paycheck to paycheck. You're not gonna keep sinking in debt. You're not gonna keep living outside your means. You're gonna take control right now, today. And you're gonna change your life and your family's life as a result of it. I know that you can, and I can't wait to watch you win.